Alright, so today what I'm going to do is, this is my Miller-Matic 211. Comes with a 10-foot torch, which is just way too small. And I find all I'm ever doing is moving my work or moving my cart closer to the welder. Well, I've had enough of it, so I made a purchase. So here's what I got. I bought this Bernard torch. There's the model number. And this is a 20-foot torch, so it's basically doubling my distance that I can work in. And it comes with different tips, the option to build the torch, and it's a Bernard, so it's commercial quality. Also, with most MIG welders, there is a liner, and it starts at one end, and then it basically goes through the torch to the other end. They come in different sizes, 045, 035, 030, 023. Well, this just happens to be a liner for the 035, 045 Bernard. Now, what Bernard did was they made what they call a jump liner. So you can see it here. It goes from there to there. I think it's about 14 inches long. Yeah, it is, according to the box. Basically, it goes from the torch right here, which would be in this assembly, and then it goes down to about there somewhere. It's 14 inches. That's usually the part that wears out. The liner usually wears out right here, and instead of replacing the entire liner going all the way back to the end, the Bernard does a jumper that goes 14 inches this way. I run 023 and 030 wire normally. And I went to my local welding store, LWS, and they told me that I should just try it as is, run the 023 in it, and change the tip out, and I should be good to go. If you look at these tips, there's all different kinds of tips there. Basically, some of them thread in, some of them twist in. What I found is this model torch has a twist in. Basically, it's just a straight piece of copper, and I'll show you what that looks like. And it's got the hole drilled in for 023. I got 10 of them for less than $20, and you just twist them right out right here. This is where you twist them out, quarter turn, and they come right out. So my setup happens to be none of these. It uses the old Bernard tip, which is fine. I don't have a preference one way or another. And I'll show you the rest on the welder. Okay, so I've already got the torch on here, and let me show you how it works. You open the cover, and there's a little wing nut here. You loosen that wing nut, and this is all part of the torch right there. There's a couple of O-rings right in here and here. This is your shielding gas, and that's how it's introduced into the torch. Now, let me pull it out here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. There you can see there's one O-ring, and there's the other O-ring. And you can see the little inlets for the gas that are built into the torch. So basically you loosen this, and you can take the pressure off your wire, pull the wire out of your old torch, and then you loosen this and pull it out. The only other thing you have is there's a connection on the front for the switch, and this unscrews, and then it's keyed. And if you look at it, there's a notch on the top right there. That only goes in one direction. Then you just twist this on, and you should be in business. So, let me push this back in, the torch, like that. Make sure you get it so it contacts all the way here. And then you can tighten the torch up right here. Now, I'm not going to do that yet because there's a small problem. I mean, the torch fits. I run wire through it. But let me show you the problem. Okay, so here's the Bernard torch. Now you can see that this is a really, really heavy-duty torch. It's a lot larger than what comes with the Miller, the M10 or the M15. I had the M10. And then it goes right in here, and it basically just pushes in. However, here's the problem. Bernard has this little junction box right here, and as you can see, it's rather large. When you push it in to the welder, there is no way that it's going to fit, and you can see right here that it's going to hit the case. It's just way too large to fit in. So Sorry about the shaky video, but what all that means is that when you push it in all the way, you just can't get this box in there. Now, what I've noticed though is that the box almost fits. And I'll show you, it's just miserable trying to do this with one hand, but it almost fits. This junction box has those two 5/16 inch screws. Yes, they use the American size. And so if I could trim this junction box right here, I think it would fit in there just right. Now the other problem is that this is like a funnel, so it tapers in. It's not a straight shot, which means I'm really going to have to trim this back, this unit back, and it looks like if I could get a 1/4 of an inch out of this, trim this back a 1/4 of an inch, it would work. However, I don't want to leave these electrical connections exposed. So let's look inside and I'll show you what's in there. So if you look in there, there's two contactors. Now, there's no polarity on a switch. It's just open or closed. So we'll disconnect these two connections, and then you have the connector that goes into the unit, and that's basically it. So here's what we got to do. In order to get an 1/8 of an or a 1/4 of an inch setback, I can leave the screws where they are, right there, and I can trim the case back above right here. Trim that back a 1/4 of an inch, and then trim this down, and then I'll have to bend these tabs right there on the switch for that 1/4 of an inch. They can be bent vertical, give me a 90 there, and that should be able to give me the 45, or excuse me, the 1/4 of an inch that I can push this connector in. But I don't want to leave it exposed, so I'm going to do some plastic welding and weld this up and trim it a 1/4 of an inch and see if that works. So that's next.